Have you ever wondered why is it that the seemingly bad musicians often write the best songs? You might have heard that the likes of Bob Dylan or the Beatles weren't very good with music theory. In fact, Bob Dylan is often considered like someone who can't really sing. Beatles famously didn't know what chords they were playing. And we can find a lot of examples where the musicians who are responsible for the songwriting or for the composition of the thing didn't really know as much about music theory. Maybe a bit less so in composition, but definitely in songwriting. You see, there's this misconception about music theory that before you can write your first song or before you can create music of your own, you need to master some amount of it. You need to go through music school. You need to first perfectly learn your instrument. But I think that's a huge shame, and it stops people from freely expressing. And in fact, I've met a lot of musicians who are highly advanced in terms of their skills, but still struggled with writing a song or expressing themselves with music or improvising. When you go through music school, it will give you a lot of practical knowledge. It will give you a lot of theory. It will give you a lot of history about music. But what it also does is it puts you in specific boxes. As every rigid system, it has ways of looking at the field you're finding yourself in and defining what's correct and what's bad. And then it creates categories and boxes that we put the good stuff in and the bad stuff in. But the real novelty, whether it's in music, as we're talking about right now, or whether it's in science, for example, or other fields, always comes from the fringes, always comes from the courageous people who kind of broke through the barrier of and ventured into the unknown. And what not being trained musicians at all gives you is this tremendous opportunity of not having to worry about any of the rules and just do your own thing, just do whatever you feel like. Not knowing any of the music theory can on one hand be quite limiting because you just don't know where to start, but also liberating because you can start anywhere you like. And so more often than not, this notion of I can't do it, I can't stand because I don't know music theory comes from sort of limiting belief that we hold, and it's usually only when we never even try when we hold this, because if we tried, we would be asking different questions. If we actually tried to write a melody, we'd be asking, oh, how can I capture this idea that I'm having? Or we'd be asking, what chords can I possibly use to go with this melody? We won't be asking how to write the song because we would be already writing it, right? So the creative process behind writing a song doesn't start with defining, the outcome or coming up with the perfect progression that's already been pre-written and approved by a music academy. It comes from venturing into the unknown. We can call it improvisation, music improvisation. I like to start with just playing, making sounds. And what songwriting and composition really is about is noticing patterns. Noticing patterns that we like, or sometimes it can be unpleasant patterns that express some emotion we hold inside. And then we take those patterns, we notice them, and we capture them somehow, and then we put them inside some structure. So the structure can be music form or some composition form like symphony or song form, whatever that is. But it all starts with noticing a pattern, noticing something in a seemingly incoherent or random sound or order. So the reason why the improvisation part is so important is because I can just start playing and letting myself go, not judging myself. That's really important because we often stop before we even can make something due to those internal judgments. So I just start, I improvise, I let myself go for a while, and then I step outside and try and notice something I like. Here I want to caution you, you might think that the patterns you're playing are just obvious and normal, but that's also a bias of someone who's creating them. Often I play my guitar and I think, oh, this has been played so many times and it's so like cliche and stuff, but even these ideas can be workable. Maybe you just need to take them from a slightly different angle. The key point here is to venture into the unknown, let the creative juices flow, and then notice a pattern. Next step is then to being able to capture the idea, and that became extremely easy these days because we can just record it on our phone, or if you're more advanced you can use some kind of a digital audio workstation like free GarageBand or Audacity, and you can just record your idea there. You don't even have to know the notation to be able to compose music or song. And once you can capture your idea in some way on your dictaphone, in your computer, write it down. You can make a tab for guitarists, for example. Rather than writing a notation, you can make a tab and or even numbers and letters, which string and which fret the notes are on. Once you capture this idea in some shape or form, the next step is to fit it into some structure. So here you can get inspired from some songwriting forms or pre-written structures, something along the lines of verse, pre-chorus, chorus, second verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, these sort of things. But this again is just to get you started and help you. You don't need to hold on to them. Instead, you can simply take a piece of paper or create a digital document and then just label those ideas you've had and put them in some sort of order. So maybe the first idea you noticed, the first pattern you noticed, you can call riff 1. So you put riff 1 will be at the beginning, then we'll transition it into riff 2 or melody 1 or a lyric 3, and then somehow you start putting these ideas together in some new ways, and you just need to trust the process. The process is messy. It's like giving birth to something, and it's also a dance between allowing yourself to like what you're making even though it's not perfect, and also having some objectivity regarding to whether it's actually good or not. Once you're happy about your creation, you can then of course ask people around and find ways to have some sort of reality check, have someone to give you feedback. But don't do it before you're really happy and you don't know where to go else. Like, give yourself time and grace, and don't get too attached to any specific part of it. And you, in the end, are the artist, so you decide what you love. So the beauty of songwriting coming from someone who's an untrained musician is that limitless options, not being constrained by any rules, and every single one of us have unique experience, and therefore we can express something uniquely ours. And if you then combine it with some practical knowledge, some practical skill, maybe playing on an instrument, and good faith feedback from others, even you, no matter how advanced and skilled you are in music, can create a meaningful song that will move people. I truly believe that. I hope this video gave you some insight, or maybe even a permission to create and to make music, to express yourself musically. And one of the big parts of music expression is obviously rhythm, right? That's the pulse of everything, that's the heartbeat. So I created this little PDF book you can download below that helps you to find your inner groove, that teaches you how to improve your sense of rhythm, what the rhythm is in the first place, and how to relate to it maybe in a slightly different way. So feel free to download it. And if you wish to talk to me personally and talk about how we could potentially work together, you can book a free clarity session. There is a link below as well. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel and help me grow the second coaching channel, and I'll see you in the next one.